So, you want to build a team of AI agents that can work together, right? Think of it like assembling the Avengers. You need the right combination of heroes, a solid game plan, and, a way to make sure they don't accidentally level the city in the process. Today, we're diving into two of the heavy hitters in this world, Agno and the Claude SDK, to figure out the absolute best lineup for your mission.
But before we get into the nitty-gritty, we have to talk about the massive elephant in the room. There's a ticking time bomb hidden inside the most popular way people are combining these two frameworks. And if you're in a field like finance, healthcare, or government, this isn't just a little red flag, it's a complete showstopper. We're going to unpack exactly what that is, and more importantly, how you can actually diffuse it.
Okay, so what is it we're even trying to build here? Just imagine a kind of AI command center. You've got your team of specialists all lined up. One's a research genius, another's a coding wizard, and a third is a master of data. And they're all collaborating on some huge, complex problem, with a central brain telling them exactly who needs to do what and when. And that, my friends, is what we call an agentic mesh.
Now you're probably thinking, wow, that sounds incredible. What's the catch? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The community is settled on what looks like the perfect, ideal solution, but it's got this hidden flaw that could honestly bring the whole thing crashing down around you.
On paper, this is the dream team. You've got Agno playing quarterback, calling the plays, and directing the entire operation. Then, for those really sensitive, high-stakes tasks, you bring in Claude as your ace in the hole, a super powerful, contained agent that can handle your most critical data. It looks like the perfect mix of power, flexibility, and security. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, but you know how it goes. Even the most perfect-looking plans have that one thing, that one fatal flaw. And in this case, whoa, it's a big one.
Okay, so here's the paradox, plain and simple. Agno is built to be like a private digital fortress for your data. That's its whole selling point. But the moment you plug in a Claude agent, it's like you've secretly opened a backgate, and all your precious data starts leaking out onto the public internet via Anthropic's API. For anyone in a regulated industry, that completely destroys the whole reason you built the fortress to begin with.
So how did we even get into this situation? To really get it, we need to look at the two frameworks themselves. It really helps to think of them as having two totally different personalities. You've got the wise, battle-tested orchestrator, and then you have the incredibly powerful, but kind of reckless guardian.
First up is Agno. Just look at the stats here. It's the seasoned veteran, right? It's been around, it's stable, it's got a massive community of nearly 40,000 developers on GitHub behind it, and the license is business-friendly. It's as reliable as they come. If you need a rock-solid foundation for your AI mesh, Agno is, frankly, the obvious choice.
And then you've got the Claude SDK. This is the new kid on the block. It's incredibly powerful, it's exciting, but it's also a total wild card. It's officially labeled as alpha, which is developer speak for handle with care, this might break. And this is a big one for any business. While the code might be open source, how you can use it is all tied up in Anthropic's commercial terms.
And look, that data privacy problem, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Our analysis found 3 major gotchas you absolutely have to know about before you write a single line of code for this kind of hybrid system.
All right, the good news first, you can fix that data leak paradox we talked about. Instead of letting the Claude SDK call out to the public web, you can force all its communications through a private service like AWS Bedrock, Google Vertex, or Azure's AI Foundry. This keeps all your data safely inside your own cloud environment. But, and this is a huge but, you have to plan for this from day one. You can't just bolt it on later. It has to be part of the core design.
The second big issue is what the source material calls the context loss problem, and it is a killer. Imagine trying to have a serious conversation with someone, but every time you finish a sentence, they completely forget who you are and what you were just talking about. Infuriating, right? Well, that's pretty much what happens when Agno tries to work with a Claude agent.
Here's what's going on under the hood. Agno basically thinks the Claude agent is a calculator. You give it a problem, it gives you an answer, transaction over. But the Claude agent is designed to be a collaborator. It's supposed to remember the history of the conversation. Because of this mismatch, any task that takes more than one step just falls apart, unless you're willing to do some seriously heavy engineering lifting to work around it.
And that brings us to our third and final gotcha. I could explain it in a lot of words, but honestly, this one number says it all. Yeah, about 20 new releases in just 51 days. For anyone trying to run a stable system in a business, that is terrifying.
So what does that kind of churn actually mean for you?
It means you're building on ground that's constantly shifting. The rules can change overnight, breaking your entire system. This means your team has to lock down the exact version you're using. You have to test every single tiny update, and you absolutely must have a backup plan for when, and believe me, it's when, not if, it breaks.
Okay, wow. So after all those warnings, what's the takeaway? How in the world do you choose the right path for your team? Don't worry, let's make it simple.
This chart right here, this is your cheat sheet. So if you're a startup, listen up. Just don't do the hybrid model. Seriously. The operational complexity will absolutely crush a small team. Stick to one framework and master it. Now, if you're a bit bigger, say a mid-market company, you can start to experiment. Use Agno for the mesh, and maybe bring in 1 or 2 tightly controlled Claude agents. And for the big players, the enterprises, you can go for it. You can build the full hybrid model. But you're going to need a dedicated platform team and security involved from the very start. This is not a side project.
So at the end of the day, when you're designing your own AI architecture, you have to ask yourself a really fundamental question. Are you building for the flashy promise of today, or are you designing for the messy, complex reality of tomorrow? Because the answer to that will determine whether you're building something that lasts or just the next shiny object that falls apart. The choice is yours.